Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And today we're going to be talking about some of the challenges that I see this game having to overcome, and we're going to be talking about one in particular in 2023 and of course thereafter. But before we get to that, if you guys wouldn't mind leaving a like and a comment down below and appeasing and feeding our algorithm overlords, that is the way that videos get pushed out and notifications actually get sent out now. Apparently, thank you YouTube algorithm, we have to appease the algorithm. So if you wouldn't mind helping in that down below by dropping a like and leaving a comment on this video, that would be most appreciated. But now let's go ahead and get on into what this game is going to have to overcome in 2023, and that is, in my opinion, the factor that's been mounting and has been more and more obvious as time has gone on, and that is burnout. There has been, from at least my viewpoint of playing this game for the better part of 6 years now, there's been, in my experience with players that I know and that I've talked to, a very high rate of burnout, especially amongst veteran players in the past couple of years, especially, of course, last year with the introduction of several, let's say, new elements to the game that many simply didn't want to see added to the game or forced upon us, but was. Now, in terms of player numbers, we did a video on this not that long ago. The numbers, at least for the North American server, have been remarkably consistent. And that is pretty much the case across most other servers too. Wargaming titles seem to have a very loyal player base, especially with World of Tanks, and especially with World of Warships. Now, I just said that there's been a large number of veteran players that have seemingly left or play the game a lot less in recent years, and that is true because one of the models that Wargaming seems to go with, and it's not just Wargaming and World Warships and World of Tanks that follow this model, but it's most free-to-play games, and that is they focus a lot on churn, bringing in new players. They want them to come to the game, play the game as not even their primary game, but just often for a few months, spend some money on the game, and then they don't really care too much what happens after that. And I believe that's what's happening here with the player numbers. Now, as someone that's one of the larger YouTube channels for World of Warships, and that has and currently follows pretty much most of the major groups, the Discord server, the Facebook groups, Reddit, so forth and so on, I still see a number of new players. And even, of course, on my own channel, my channel is, a lot of videos and tutorial videos on my channel are geared towards newer players, and these videos that are 2 or 3 years old, talking about tips and tricks for new players, what battleship line to start off with, this, that, and the other, those videos are still getting plenty of views and a lot of traffic from newer players. You can go on some of my older tutorial videos, again, even 2 or 3 years ago, that are fairly outdated, and there's still comments from a week ago, a few days ago, a few hours ago on these videos because of the amount of new players that are still finding their way to the game and are still trying to, of course, get the ropes and such. And World of Warships is one of these games that it's pretty fortunate to be a content creator for this game, because the game's always changing. There's new mechanics being introduced, mechanics being changed, ships being buffed and nerfed, to where it's fairly easy to keep up a steady stream of content about this game because of that. And that's one thing that, of course, throws new players off, is that they watch a video from 5 years ago and like, wait, what a second, this ship has 22 kilometer range in this video, but now it's got 19 kilometer range, what the heck, things like that. But anyway, there's still a lot of new players coming to this game, before I get myself off on too much of a tangent there. But it doesn't seem to be overtaking the amount of players that are either dropping the game or that are playing the game less and less. It's just enough to hold solid. Again, if you look at the numbers, some months it looks like it's going down, some months start to go up. We're in the point right now where if you go look at the player charts, we're starting to see the upswing of the players that, of course, are playing more and more because it's when people staying inside, they're not traveling as much. And that seems to be what's happening right now with the player base. It's just holding steady. Now, why aren't the players staying around? Well, in my opinion, there's several elements to this game that have been added in that, sure, on paper aren't balanced, but are annoying as hell to play against. And there are parts that are, of course, annoying that comes with just the nature of gameplay and having to create a balanced experience for all ship classes that players have, accepted. It gets complained about a lot, but it of course isn't going anywhere. Is things like HE spam. I mean, HE spam's been a thing that's been around since the beginning of the game. It's certainly ratcheted up in recent years with some of these new ships that we're getting now that have sub 2-second reloads with, mountains of guns on them. But of course, in a naval combat game, you've got to have some way for ships with lighter armament to be able to damage ships that historically they probably couldn't really scratch too much. So things like that have been accepted and tolerated by a large amount of the player base, or just seeing other elements stacked on top of them that sure might be balanced on paper, but they're annoying as hell to deal with. Things like super ships that were kind of just thrust upon the community without very much testing or feedback from the community. I mean, shoot, we had the one super ship event, and they're like, oh yeah, this is perfect, we can go ahead and launch these now. These ships are literally broken and overpowered, but you just deal with the higher credit costs and you pay to play them, and you have a major advantage over the rest of the enemy team. An idea that on paper, why would you want to put this into a game where balance is key to an enjoyable experience? Well, of course, it comes down to the overinflation of credits and things like that. But yeah, they are beyond annoying to deal with. There's only so many times a night that I can see a third of my HP bar get ripped away by the Eagle before I'm just done for the night. I'm sure most of you know what I'm saying. And same goes for, of course, the Satsuma vibe checking you with 8 20-inch guns, and the Conde just completely nuking your ship with its reload booster, so forth and so on. And then, of course, we have the allowing of these ships in clan battles, which was beyond terrible. So you have that on top of other things like submarines. I don't think I need to go on too much of a tirade here about submarines and how, yes, it's a new class. It's neat they added in a new class. It's neat they added in an underwater world that is beautiful and all this stuff. But they're annoying as hell to deal with. And then when you finally come and just surrender to them and decide, hey, well, let me try these things out, turns out they're really boring to play most of the time. Submarines are basically in the situation that CVs were before the CV rework, where you had guys that were literally God with them, and then most of the player base just dies in a couple of minutes when they try to play them. And those are, man, homing torpedoes, the shotgunning, they are a very, very steep learning curve when it comes to learning how to counter the submarines too. And of course, when you have a player base that's been playing essentially the same game with the same classes for the past 6 years, and then you introduce this whole new class where basically most of the player base has to completely relearn the game just to deal with one class, that's infuriating to try and pick up and play against. And it's probably going to be the better part of 2023 before most of the player base is actually decent at dealing with submarines. Although it is quite funny to see the absolute fog of ASW planes that pop up once a submarine gets spotted, even though in most cases a lot of them do misjudge their depth charge drops. But yeah, so you have things like that that just keep building on top of one another, ships that are more gimmicky and are more broken, and these super ships that apparently aren't going anywhere. I mean, they've fully delved into just pumping more and more of these ships out. We just got 2 in this past update, even though the Clausewitz, in my opinion, is actually one of the better ones that we've gotten in terms of game balance. So 2023, the devs need to take a step back and think, okay, are we okay with just making a quick buck, putting in these ships to attract these newer players in, make it look good on social media and around the internet, but we're sacrificing the veteran players that are frustrated with this, they're getting fed up with it. I mean, playing tier 10 is really an absolute just miserable time in most cases. You have, from my experience, like in a batch of 10 games, you have about 6 games that are absolutely blowouts one way or the other. That the friendly team's hiding behind one island or they're in one grid coordinate, and the enemy team just completely rolls over you super fast. Then you've got about 3 or 2 games that are kind of okay, but the engagement ranges normally stick out at around 18, 17, 20-ish kilometers for most of the match. And then you have another 2 games, or 3 games, how many games are left in this sample of 10, that are actually pretty good and pretty fun. They come down to the last 3 or 4 ships left alive on either side, and you get a pretty good match out of it. And normally those matches involve either little to no super ships or little to no submarines, and usually a lot of old guard ships that you will. Ships that were designed and introduced before we started getting super gimmicky consumables and characteristics and such, like we get in a lot of newer ships nowadays. So that's what my main concern about for this game is going into 2023. Are they going to keep going down this path of super gimmicky ships, things that, sure, on paper are balanced, but they're annoying as hell to play against? Or will they maybe pump the brakes a little bit, take a look back at the game, maybe go back to just introducing ships with certain characteristics that have certain attributes about them, but aren't necessarily gimmicky like they've been doing for the past couple of years? I'm not holding my breath for the latter option there, but we'll see what the future brings. So guys, that's my 2 cents on that topic. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hope you guys have a wonderful Tuesday. If you enjoyed this video, make sure again to drop a like. You can leave a comment down below. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.